Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we continue speaking about pronouns in English. Previously we discussed personal and possessive pronouns. You can check that video following the link in the description to this one. Today we are going to speak about reflexive and reciprocal pronouns. Let's begin. We'll start with reflexive pronouns. So, reflexive pronouns are myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. What makes them reflexive? Reflexive pronouns refer back to a person or a thing. Let me demonstrate it. The interviewer asked me to tell her about myself. Here we have a personal pronoun and a reflexive pronoun. The personal pronoun is me, it's in the objective case, and the reflexive pronoun is myself. So the interviewer asked me to tell her about myself. Myself refers back to me. Another example, the boy fell and hurt himself badly. The reflexive pronoun himself refers back to the boy, to the doer of the action. The boy hurt himself, not somebody else, but himself. She thinks too much of herself. Again, the reflexive pronoun herself refers back to the subject of the sentence, to she. She thinks of herself. Please sit down and make yourself at home. You sit down and you make yourself. Our reflexive pronoun is associated with you, with the person that we were previously talking about. We've been working on this textbook for 2 years and we like the result. We are very proud of ourselves. We are proud of ourselves. Ourselves refers back to we, to the doer of the action. And in a minute, he was himself again. Himself is associated with he, with the doer of the action. Predominantly reflexive pronouns are used as objects, but in this last example, we see that a reflexive pronoun can be used as a predicative. He was himself, so himself is a part of a compound predicate, a predicative. Reflexive pronouns have the categories of person, number, and gender in the third person singular. Let's see. The first person singular is myself. I, myself. The first person plural is ourselves. We, ourselves. The second person singular is yourself. It used to be thyself, but the form thyself is not used in modern English anymore. And if you don't know what it stands for, again, you can check this video and the description to this lesson. So the second person singular is yourself and the second person plural is yourselves. And the third person singular is himself, herself, itself. The corresponding personal pronouns will be respectively he, she, and it. And the third person plural is themselves. Now let's see where we can use reflexive pronouns. As I have already mentioned, we can use reflexive pronouns as direct objects with most transitive verbs. But the most common verbs with which we use reflexive pronouns are to amuse, to blame, to cut, to dry, to hurt, to enjoy, to help, to introduce, to kill, to prepare, to satisfy, and to teach. For instance, we amused ourselves playing truth or dare. Help yourselves to the pudding, please. So all the above-mentioned words are verbs that express actions that we can do to ourselves, right? That can be directed onto the doer of the action. We can amuse ourselves, we can blame ourselves for something, we can cut ourselves while cooking, we can introduce ourselves to a new person, we can teach ourselves some good things, and so on and so forth. However, there are verbs that express actions that people do to themselves, but these verbs do not take reflexive pronouns. These verbs are to feel, to concentrate, to wash, to shave, to dress, or to behave. So in modern English, these verbs are normally not used with reflexive pronouns. We should not say, I feel myself terrible after the conversation. What we should say is, I feel terrible after this conversation. Or I feel exhausted, or I feel exasperated, or I feel great. Whatever is the feeling we are talking about, the verb to feel doesn't need a reflexive pronoun after it. I feel good, I feel bad, and so on and so forth. Another incorrect sentence would be, James relaxed himself after a hard day. What we should say is, James relaxed after a hard day. James relaxed, not he relaxed himself. That sounds strange. So let's remember, we don't use reflexive pronouns with these verbs: to feel, to concentrate, to wash, to shave, to dress, to behave. Nevertheless, there are cases where you will see these verbs with reflexive pronouns. For example, behave yourself, or go and wash yourselves, kids. In these imperative sentences, we must use reflexive pronouns. We also might use these verbs with reflexive pronouns for emphasis. For instance, the soldier dressed himself in spite of his injury. Or the kid is old enough to wash himself. In the first sentence, the soldier dressed himself, we emphasize that, though it was difficult for the soldier to dress, he managed to do it himself. He dressed himself without anybody's help. And in the second case, the kid is old enough to dress himself, we again want to highlight that nobody's help is needed because the kid is old enough to do that himself, without anybody's assistance. But again, normally, in everyday life, you will just say, I dressed, I washed, I shaved, and so on and so forth. You will not need myself after these words. We can use reflexive pronouns after prepositions. In this case, reflexive pronouns function not as direct objects, but obviously as indirect objects. For instance, take care of yourself. You look after yourself. Look at yourself. Why is your shirt so stained? James lives by himself. Alice renovated her apartment by herself. So here are these prepositions that you might see in front of reflexive pronouns. Pay attention to the last two sentences, please. James lives by himself and Alice renovated her apartment by herself. These sentences mean different things. James lives by himself means James lives alone, but by herself in the last sentence, Alice renovated her apartment by herself, means without anybody's help. She did it by herself. So as we see, by oneself means both without anybody's help and with no one. With no one to accompany you. More examples. She was at home by herself. The sentence means that she was alone at home. And he solved the problem by himself. Here we want to say that he did it without anybody's help. We can also use on one's own, on my own, on his own, on her own, and so on and so forth, to say that a person did something without anybody's assistance. So, on one's own is the synonym of by oneself. That means without anybody's help or without having anybody to accompany. For instance, she has made this decision on her own. She has made this decision by herself, without anybody helping her to decide. I don't like organizing trips on my own. I don't like organizing trips by myself. I like to do it with friends, for instance. The course has encouraged us to continue studying on our own. The course has encouraged us to study by ourselves. There is a very slight difference between by myself and on my own, though. On my own means that you are independent. That's a positive way of thinking. Whereas by myself means that you are all alone. There is nobody that can be with you, that can help you, and so on and so forth. So we've learned that we can use reflexive pronouns after prepositions. But we should note that we use object pronouns and not reflexive ones after prepositions of place and after with when it means accompanied by. Let's see. He took a sip of a glass of lemonade that he had beside him and started to write. So we use the object pronoun him, not the reflexive pronoun himself in this sentence. We say he had a glass of lemonade beside him, not beside himself. Guess who I have next to me? Your Uncle Stephen. Again, me is an object pronoun. We should not say next to myself. We must say next to me. We had 2 weeks to finish the project, so we had to be entirely focused on the job we had in front of us, not in front of ourselves. Miranda didn't come alone. She had her little niece with her, not with herself. Returning from his holidays in Toscana, Hadrian would carry with him lots of souvenirs for the whole family, not with himself. Another situation in which we use reflexive pronouns is when we need to emphasize the person we are talking about. We use reflexive pronouns to emphasize a person or thing we are referring to, often when we are speaking about someone famous. For instance, insiders familiar with Madonna say that she is committed to making a film about her life. However, Madonna herself is yet to confirm or deny this. We want to emphasize that no one else but she can confirm or deny this piece of news. Once a law is written, even the king himself cannot change it. Again, we want to emphasize the person we're referring to, the king himself, in propria persona. And one more example, the literary history of the town says more about those writing the history than about the town itself. As you see, town is an unanimated thing. We can use reflexive pronouns to emphasize the things we're talking about too. Now let's look at 2 sentences where the position of the reflexive pronoun is different. Let's compare. The CEO himself wants to interview her, and the CEO wants to interview her himself. These are 2 absolutely different ideas. The first sentence tells us that the CEO, in propria persona, not just some employee, but the CEO himself, wants to interview her. So we emphasize the doer that we are referring to with help of this reflexive pronoun that stands right after the noun, the CEO. And in the second case, himself goes to the end of the sentence, and the sentence means that the CEO doesn't want anyone else to do it. He wants to do it by himself, without anybody's help. So you see, the place where you put a reflexive pronoun determines the meaning of your utterance. So you should be very attentive about it. Okay, one more thing to say about reflexive pronouns. Some verbs change their meaning when their direct object is a reflexive pronoun. This is another thing that you want to be attentive about. A verb with or without a reflexive pronoun might mean different things. Compare. You can help yourself by being truthful. And orange juice is on the table. Help yourself. The verb help in the first sentence literally means assistance. So you will do yourself good if you say the truth. In other words, being truthful is beneficial for you. You can help yourself this way. And the second sentence is actually an offer. Somebody offers you a drink. Please help yourself to the orange juice on the table. Let's look at some other examples where the presence of a reflexive pronoun after the verb adds new connotations to the sentence. He busied himself with writing and composing, and at the age of 21, he became famous all over the world. Here, we cannot say he busied with writing. We can only say he busied himself with writing. And this expression means he worked hard. He worked busily on something. She had to content herself with short letters that her fiancé sent her from abroad. Again, to content oneself is an expression, and it means to be satisfied with something. Usually we use it when the thing that we are talking about is very scarce or is a compromise. You can content yourself with some little sum of money, or content yourself with somebody's weak excuses, things like that. And the last example, when the truth was revealed, the chief accountant found himself in hot water. This found himself means that he was surprised when he discovered that he was in this situation. In hot water means in a difficult situation. The accountant happened to be in a difficult situation. This is what we want to say with this last sentence. Now that we have discussed reflexive pronouns, let's proceed to reciprocal pronouns. There are only two reciprocal pronouns in English: each other and one another. Let's see. Reciprocal pronouns are each other and one another. These pronouns express mutual action. They refer to a situation where someone or something performs an action on somebody or something and receives the same action in return. The subject they refer to must be in plural, so this each other and one another suggest that there are always at least two people that are involved. I do something to you and you do the same thing to me. Let's see. The music was very loud, so Anne didn't hear what Michael was saying. Michael didn't hear Anne either. So this action of trying to hear each other is mutual in this situation, right? Michael tried to hear what Anne was saying, Anne was trying to hear what Michael was saying. This way we can say they didn't hear each other. The subject is plural, it's they, because there are two of them. They, he and she. Tom helped Jane with her English and she helped him with his algebra. They helped each other with their homework. Again, we see a reciprocal action, yeah? A mutual action. They helped each other with the home task. I combed my sister's hair and she combed mine. We combed each other's hair. I did it for her, she did it for me. A mutual action was taking place. Generally speaking, these two, each other and one another, are interchangeable. Whether you use each other or one another depends on your choice and your habits, though there might be a very slight difference between these two. Each other generally implies only two, while one another refers to two or more than two people. However, this distinction is not always observed. Jason and Sam were talking to each other during the lecture. There are two people, Jason and Sam, so we can use each other. During the class, the students interviewed one another. Here, we are speaking about a group of people, a group of students. Presumably, there were many of them, more than two, so we use one another. But again, though this rule exists, it's not always observed in practice. Reciprocal pronouns have two case forms, the common case and the genitive case. The common case of reciprocal pronouns is used as an object. Examples: in order for us to be an efficient team, we must trust each other. Each other here is in the common case. We must trust each other. Chloe and Emma hated each other when they were kids. Hated whom? Each other. The common case. Each other is used as an object. Now, the genitive case of reciprocal pronouns is used as an attribute. Let's see. I saw two birds in the oak. They were cleaning each other's feathers. What feathers? Each other's feathers. Each other's functions as an attribute of the word feathers. When people want to be in each other's company only on a physical level, they are missing something, are they not? In what company? In each other's company. Each other's is an attribute of the word company. And in this sentence, the pupils bent into each other and stepped on each other's feet. We can see both cases. The pupils bend into each other. The first, each other, functions as an object, and the second one, each other's feet, functions as an attribute. Let's look at some more examples where reflexive pronouns are used in possessive forms or in the genitive case. The neighbors helped to look after each other's pets. They've been friends for 2 decades. They know each other's habits really well. All crew members are equal in each other's eyes. It is known that people often mirror one another's emotions. The kids enjoyed one another's company. Again, you see in the last two sentences one another's is used because here we speak about groups of people that are more than two, but some native speakers might say that this one another's sounds not very natural to them, as if each other's is a more common form in the language. Some students may have doubts when they decide what they need to use, a reflexive pronoun or a reciprocal pronoun. These two have very different meanings. They cannot be interchangeable, and if you use them improperly, that may ruin your sentence. Let's look at some examples. Alice and Tom looked at each other. This sentence means that Alice looked at Tom and Tom looked at Alice. A reciprocal action was taking place. Alice and Tom looked at themselves. Here, each person looked at his or herself. Alice looked at herself and Tom looked at himself. And they didn't see each other. They only saw themselves. For instance, each of them looked in a mirror, not at the other person. My sister and I like to talk to each other. I like to talk to my sister, and my sister likes to talk to me. My sister and I like to talk to ourselves. Judging by this sentence, I like to speak to myself, and my sister likes to speak to herself. We don't converse with each other. We have some conversations in our heads with ourselves. You guys must know each other, and you guys must know yourselves. You guys must know each other means that you guys are acquainted with each other, because you have already seen each other, you have already met. You guys must know yourselves is a very different idea. The sentence refers to the knowledge of your inner world, of yourself. So if we paraphrase it, we'll get you guys must know who you are. You must know your habits, your desires, what's important for you, and so on and so forth. Now, we also should not confuse the reciprocal pronoun each other with indefinite pronouns each and other. The words each and other can be used by themselves as indefinite pronouns. We'll speak about indefinite pronouns in a separate video a little bit later. Today, let's look at these examples and see what functions each of these indefinite pronouns might have. My two Labradors are very different. They each have their own personality. So, each of my two Labradors has its own personality. The house had 2 bedrooms, each with wonderful views of the mountains. There was this wonderful view of the mountains from the first bedroom and from the second bedroom as well. Each of the students in this group knows English pretty well. Linguine is the best type of pasta for this dish, but any other will do as well. Here we see the indefinite pronoun other, right? Any other, any will do. If I wear these boots, others will laugh at me. The pronoun other has a plural form, others. So what these sentences illustrate is that each and other can exist by themselves and can be used in different contexts with different functions in various situations, and we should not mix those uses of each and other with those cases when we use each other. Yeah? Each other is a reciprocal pronoun. Let's pay some attention to the functions that these indefinite pronouns, each and other, might have in a sentence. So each can be used as an adjective or as an adverb, and other can be used as an adjective, as an adverb, as a noun, or even as a verb. Let's see. Each student was given a different set of questions. What function does the word each have in this sentence? Each is an adjective. It is the attribute of the word student. What kind of student? Each student. I want to thank each and every person who helped my campaign. It is a similar situation. Each is used as an adjective here, as well as every. These antique chairs cost us $20 each. Here, each is an adverb. When each is used as an adverb, it means a piece. $20 a piece per chair, in this case. You can also say, Bob and Jill have 2 cars in their family. They have 1 car each. Jill has 1 car, And Bob has 1 car. We clean the patio every other week. Here we have other, and other is used as an adjective. It is an attribute of the noun week. The little girl said she didn't want that puppy. She wanted the other one. Again, it is the adjective that characterizes one that stands for the puppy. His feet were killing him after the long walk up the hill, but other than that, he felt good. So here we have the expression other than that, and other here functions as an adverb. I don't like reading several books at the same time, so I won't start reading this one until I have finished reading the other. The other here is a noun. You don't see any other word after other, so the article belongs to the word other itself, the other, and it functions as a noun. And some people like vegetables, others like fruit. Others here is a pronoun that replaces the noun people. Okay, there are more things to say about other, another, the other, others, as well as about each and every, so if you're interested in that information, you can watch these videos. The links to them will be in the description to this one. To finish today's lesson, I suggest that we do a little exercise. Now you'll see 10 sentences on your screens. Please write them down, complete them with your variants, and let's check them with me. The CEO announced the news himself or herself, depending on the sex of the CEO. He did it in propria persona. The cat hates being home by itself or on its own. Both options are correct, as both mean alone. The cat hates being home alone. Do you like working with other people, or do you prefer working by yourself or on your own? Do you prefer working alone, right? We were told to sit down and make ourselves at home. Make oneself at home is a set expression. It's what you say to your guests to make them feel comfortable, as if they were at their own home. Roberto likes his girlfriend to dress well. In this sentence, we must not use a reflexive pronoun. Ben cut himself when he was shaving in the morning. You can't behave in public. Behave yourselves, kids. Remember, that's an imperative sentence. Did you go to Spain by yourself or on your own, or with friends? Did you go there alone or with friends? Right? And people should get married only if they love each other, shouldn't they? Okay guys, this is all for today. I hope this lesson was useful and informative. If you have any questions to me, please write them in the comment section down below, subscribe to this channel, and see you in the next video.